And if this wasn't my son's wedding day, I'd knock your teeth out, you anti-dentite bastard. Because we watched Season 8, Episode 19, The Yada Yada. So, Catherine.
Yes, Theodoric?
How'd you like The Yada Yada?
It felt too long, but I liked it.
So this episode got special permission to run over the 23 maximum episode length, and then they actually advertised like extra special long episode of Seinfeld.
So how long was it?
I don't know, it was like 25 minutes or something.
Well, it felt like it.
When it ran in syndication, they cut out some scenes to bring it down. But on Hulu and Netflix, it has the theatrical version.
Yes. Director's cut?
This is not a director's cut. It was the original version.
Did you like it?
Yeah. I think this was a great episode. I think I will go as far as to say, I don't know about underrated. I think maybe underappreciated episode.
Okay.
When it came over, we were watching the Yada Yada, it was like, yep, I know this episode. George, girlfriend, yada, yada, yada. I'm really tired this morning. I know what this episode is about.
Mm-hmm. So much more.
So many good one-liners.
Yeah.
So many good one-liners.
Yeah. You know what? I think I'm just used to saying I don't really care for the later episodes, but you're right. I wrote a ton. I even wrote down Kramer and Mickey fight at the table. I approve.
You had tears in your eyes by the end of this episode. It moved you.
A certain line moved me.
Well, we'll get to that. So the Yada Yada was written by Peter Melman and Jill Franklin. It was directed by Andy Ackerman, and it aired on April 24th, 1997. Vulture.com ranked it as the 92nd best episode.
Oh.
So pretty much right in the middle, or actually, according to Vulture, like a little bit worse than a mid Seinfeld episode. Screen Crush had this taking the 20th spot.
Okay.
And IMDb had this slipping into the top 10 as the 9th best Seinfeld episode.
I agree with 20.
With a 9.0 flat.
Wow. All right, let's talk about it. But first, let's throw it back to last week when I asked you if you remembered this episode.
George has a girlfriend and yada, yada, yada. Some stuff happens. We get an episode. Well.
You nailed it. I'll read the synopsis. Tim Whatley converts to Judaism. Kramer and Mickey double date. George's girlfriend says yada, yada a lot. Jerry's accused of being an anti-dentite.
Mm-hmm.
As usual, Elaine is not mentioned in the synopsis, even though she has a major part in this story.
Justice for Elaine.
Yeah. When I was writing down the synopsis, or maybe just when the episode started, you said, "Oh my, I just remembered how this episode ends."
Yep.
But first, who are the guest stars?
So there was a lot of returning guest stars. We had Beth returning, played by Deborah Messing. We had Tim Whatley returning, played by Bryan Cranston. We had Mickey come back, played by Danny Woodburn. We did have a few new guest stars. So there was Suzanne Cryer, who played Macy. She was in Silicon Valley, Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place, and The Starter Wife. We had Stephen Caffrey, who played Arnie. He was in a TV show called Tour of Duty, and another one called Bosch.
Oh.
And another one called The Practice.
Okay.
He just had episodes in, like, one episode each in Bosch and The Practice. Monica Lacey played Julie.
Which one was Julie?
The one that ended up with Kramer.
Okay.
The Kicks. She was in a TV show. She was in a TV show called The Kicks. She was on an episode of Hawaii Five-0, the new one, and she was on an episode of Baywatch. Allie Marsh played Karen. She was on a TV show called In Plain Sight.
Is it plain like airplane?
No.
Oh.
A TV show called Gypsy, and an episode of
Can't say that anymore.
That's the least offensive racial term we're going to be hearing tonight. And then she had like a 3-episode arc on Law and Order. But yes, I added Gypsy because the racial undertones of this episode.
What about Mickey's parents?
They were in this episode too.
Robert Wagner?
Was that Robert Wagner?
It was number 2. I think the actor's name is Robert Wagner.
It was Robert Wagner.
What's the mom's name? She looked familiar.
Jill St. John.
James St. John Smythe. Who's Jill St. John?
She was in Diamonds Are Forever.
Okay.
It was a James Bond movie.
Oh! I just made a James Bond joke.
She was in the movie Who's Minding the Store, The Oscar, and The Liquidator.
Okay. I must have...
Those are movies from the 60s.
She has a... You know who she looks like? What's her name? Something Pickles. From Friends. Not Phoebe's mom. Maybe Rachel's mom? On Friends?
Pickles?
The actress's last name is Pickles. You don't forget something like that. It's like Christina Pickles or something.
You just have forgotten something like that. Exactly that, in fact.
I didn't forget the Pickles part.
You've forgotten everything else about it. All of the important parts,
no.
However, in your brain lodged a pickle.
Pretty much. Forever. How about that drink I made you today?
Oh my God. 1/4 cup of vermouth and pepperoncini brine.
And a lot of vodka.
Well, here we are.
So this episode opens with a cold open. Peeing.
Yep. Talking at the urinal.
Nothing to do with the rest of the episode.
No, I have a very hard rule. No talking at the urinal.
Not even about your 5 Desert Island books?
No.
What are your 5 Desert Island books?
Oh.
Do you have to have read them? Or are you like George? Like, I haven't read The Three Musketeers yet. I'm saving it for the island.
Interesting. I mean, it's your list, so you can decide.
But you're taking a risk. What if you
absolutely? What if you hate it?
I think I would just bring the longest books I have. Because it's going to get boring immediately.
I think if you want to get off this island, you can't just be sitting around reading books.
How big is the island? Can you see the whole thing standing in one place?
I mean, if you have any chance of surviving, it better be big enough that you have stuff you got to do.
What, like build a coconut radio?
No. Haven't you seen the Tom Hanks and Wilson and
Castaway?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yes,
I
have.
I wouldn't mind watching Castaway again. That's a movie I only watched once. Yeah. Like you got stuff to do. If you want to get rescued, you got stuff you got to do.
You build fire.
Build fire. You got to get food.
What if you're on an island that has nothing on it?
You're a good Fustunic.
Yeah.
You got a bunch of stuff you got to do. You can't be sitting around reading books.
Listen, I gotta conserve my energy. Once there's shelter, I'm getting in it and I'm reading a book. I'm spelling out SOS in rocks or whatever. And then I'm cracking open Infinite Chest again.
Yeah, I mean, I guess would that make my list? I don't know. Everybody talks so well about it. And I know you have to get to page whatever it is, 71, and then it all just works.
I think it's like page 123.
Whatever. I didn't get there.
No, clearly. Did you start reading it?
Yep.
Oh. I think you should continue. Well, no, start again.
I would definitely start again because I don't remember what happened.
I was also thinking I'd bring Battle Royale. And maybe the Plast Survival Guide. No, that's cheating.
How to build a boat that can get you off of a deserted island.
I like when George says, I gotta read 5 books.
Is George's prostate okay?
Jerry goes, what's going on over there?
I gotta see someone. Was
and
that ad-lib? So, fun fact.
They were really peeing?
They weren't. Maybe they were. I don't know. That wasn't what I was going to say. That they built this urinal set just for this cold open. And that's the only thing that they used it for.
Dumb.
Highlighting the production budget was bigger in these later episodes.
I mean, how many guest stars did they have here?
Yeah.
Seriously. So George's girlfriend shortens, she's very succinct. She shortens all her stories, yada, yada, yada. It's like you're dating USA Today.
Good line. And in walks Tim Watley. Fantastic line. I'll tell you what's up. I'm a Jew.
And then he calls sitting in the sauna a Jewish workout.
Mm-hmm. You just go in for a schwitz.
Elaine has a good point. You turn 21, you get drunk.
Booze is not a religion. Another good line.
Tell it to my father.
Another good line.
Tim Watley's just got to get it out of his system, and then he'll even out. I laughed out loud when they're talking about Beth and her marriage, and Jerry's like, I'm still waiting that one out. And Lane goes, that ended 6 months ago. She's married again. And he goes, I got to get on that internet. I'm late for everything.
So this is the first mention of the internet in Seinfeld.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
It dates it in such a specific way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I laughed again when Kramer says, we just picked up 2 women at the Gap.
Good line.
I don't know why that's funny.
Another good line that came before that. Oh, God, a baby? That can add 2 years to a marriage. So in the scene when Mickey and Kramer are asking Elaine's advice on which one looks better in the shirt, she is mowing down on an orange.
Yeah.
And it does not look like she's fake eating.
No, she's eating that orange.
Eating. How many oranges do you think she ate?
I think there's at least 2 peeled on the counter.
They just had them sitting there ready for, they're like, once you finish those, just go for these.
Yeah. I like Oops Elaine. I like when she's put her foot in it, or she's embarrassed, and she makes that face. I like, not embarrassed, but like, how do I describe it? Just oops.
Oops.
I like Oops Elaine. I like Boss Elaine, and I like Oops Elaine. She's very well-rounded. Still doesn't make it into the synopsis.
Elaine herself out so her friend can get a baby.
I guess they can't say that. It was very funny when George showed up at the dentist. What are you doing here? Oh, I knew you had an appointment.
Shows up later in the confessional.
Yeah. He said something like, I need to talk to you. And they held it so long for laughter.
It was great.
It looked like it was a freeze frame, but it wasn't. Because
then Jerry blinks.
George's jacket string is swinging around. They're just frozen.
It was good. I liked when Kramer and Mickey were trying to figure out how to relate to these women to determine who had more in common. I enjoy polo.
I wrote, I enjoy polo. My aunt isn't doing well.
Those must have been ad-libbed, right?
Yeah. I'm sure they're like, okay, Mickey can say I'm a working actor. And then just Michael Richards, just go. What the audience in the studio really liked was when the caller on the phone said, would you like a subscription to the New York Times? And Jerry said yes and hung up. He went wild for that.
I feel like it was trying to recapture an interaction that happened in an earlier episode where Jerry's sitting alone in his apartment with the TV on, and the phone rings, and he picks it up and he just says, if you know what happens in the Mets game, don't tell me, I taped it. Hello. So Jerry's back in the dentist. Have you ever had dental work so bad that you needed to return to the dentist? I feel like Jerry was there every day for 4 days in a row.
Yes, I have.
Oh.
When we were engaged, I wanted to have nice teeth for our wedding. And I went to get an Invisalign consultation, and the orthodontist poking around. And I'm thinking maybe 6 months of Invisalign, maybe a year. We had a year lead out time, whatever. And he goes, okay, 2 years of Invisalign and 6 months of braces. And I just said, oh, no. And then I went to my dentist and was like, what can we do because I just had one tooth that was a little bit crooked. And she goes, oh, we'll just put some filling material in the front of it. Tooth colored enamel stuff. Fantastic. So she filled it in, and I went home and I'm like, looks like a piece of corn. It's the wrong color. So I had to go back the next day. She took it off, put on a different one. I was like, great, it looks perfect. And I went home, and it was too big. I couldn't stop tonguing it because it didn't have a biting surface anymore. It was like a round stone in my mouth. So I had to go back again, and she sharpened it for me. So yes, I've been to the dentist 3 days in a row. Oh, and then it started like disintegrating. So like 2 or 3 years later, I went and just got new stuff put on top. Do you remember that I've done that?
Yes. That tooth?
Okay. Well, I didn't think it was that noticeable.
I think it's only because I know that it's a thing.
Like my real tooth is still there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. I went to the dentist today and I've never had this hygienist before. And she was trying to dig my teeth out of my skull, I think.
That joke that you told about dentists must have gotten back to her.
Yeah. I've never, just in a cleaning, had my like fists bunched up.
Mm.
At the end of the appointment, she's like, yeah, good job. Just, floss more. And like, good job.
You hear this one about the Pope and Raquel Welch in a lifeboat?
Those aren't buoys.
Lynn really liked this joke.
Yeah. Buoys. Jerry says if Tim Watley gets Polish citizenship,
there'll be no stopping him.
Do you think that's why Jesse Eisenberg got Polish citizenship? So he can make Polish jokes?
Maybe. So Peter Melman based this off a real friend who like made a Jewish joke in front of him, and he was like originally like taken aback, but then he was like, "Oh, he converted to Judaism 20 years ago."
Okay.
And then he was like, "How long before he felt comfortable making Jewish jokes?"
Yeah.
For Tim Watley, apparently it's 2 days.
2 days. So George comes back to the apartment after talking with his girlfriend.
Macy.
I already forgot her name. Because she yada yadas over her ex-boyfriend coming over and how she's so tired today. And Elaine says, oh yeah, I've yada yadaed over sex. Went out with this guy. We went to a nice restaurant. I had the lobster bisque. We went to his place, yada yada yada. I never saw him again.
But you yada yadaed over the best part.
I mentioned the bisque.
Apparently the scene needed to be filmed multiple times because Jerry Seinfeld kept breaking and laughing at Elaine.
I like that. I laughed when Jerry sat on the kneeler. It's a good episode.
Mm-hmm. So he consults with the priest and he says, I think Tim Watley converted to Judaism just for the jokes. Priest asks, oh, this offends you as a Jewish person? He said, no, it offends me as a comedian.
Do you notice when Jerry went back, I guess the last time, after he told the dentist joke, there's blood spots all over his bib?
Yeah, they went full method. So this episode also coined the term anti-dentite. Uh-huh. Had you heard it? Or do you feel as though that term... So in my research for this episode, they talk about how that although yada yada was like a phrase before, this brought it into the zeitgeist. However, when they were filming it, they thought that anti-dentite was going to be the term that caught on.
I've heard it because when I wrote it down in the synopsis, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, sure.
But it has not caught on.
Okay. I
didn't like Kramer's diatribe against Jerry for being an anti-dentite, where he coins the term. It was too much. It was old Kramer. It was too much. Why does he care? It's over the top about nothing.
It's supposed to be that Jerry is a racist, and this is how he's reacting if he were a racist.
Yes, I know that.
So he's supposed to be over the top. This is how you should react to racists.
Yes, I know that.
Also with political violence.
Oh, my God. But I did laugh when Kramer said, next thing you'll be saying they need their own schools.
They have their own schools.
What does George mean at the wedding when he comes in without his girlfriend and he goes, she went to get shoes for the wedding and I'll see her in 6 to 8 months. What does that mean? She
stole them and she was arrested and she has to serve 6 to 8 month jail sentence.
Okay. I'd already forgotten that she said she was a thief. There's so much going on.
They roll it back and he's like, we got to stop it with the yada yada.
Yeah.
Tell me about how you got that free massage and facial.
Well, I went into a department store, Bloomingdale's, and I stole a Piaget watch. I was on such a high. I went for a massage and a facial, and I left without paying. Yeah, I totally forgot about that.
So the wild part about this is she also admits to sleeping with her ex-boyfriend.
Does she?
Well, she says she came over. I was just getting out of the shower.
I was dripping wet.
I was like, I feel as though they are strongly implying that, yes, she did sleep with her ex-boyfriend.
But wouldn't she just say so at that point? Like, I think they're also suggesting that he was coming to say goodbye or to talk or something that wasn't sex.
I think it was a...
Do you think George would
I'm
want to see her again?
That's why I'm saying it doesn't make sense.
So that's why I think it's not what they're implying.
I'll ask Reddit what they think.
Okay. You let me know. I laughed when the priest who had his wisdom teeth out was marriage.
Yeah, good reference.
And then where's Beth?
She ran out to get her head shaved. Oh, so good.
Because she said something terrible. They're laughing about dentists. Who needs them?
What do you call someone that dropped out of doctor school?
A dentist. Yeah. That's when my head snapped back.
Your eyes welled up with tears slightly.
I was in shock.
This is a pretty avant-garde.
It's a little risque for Seinfeld.
For Seinfeld.
For a clean comedians show on network television. Yeah.
I think maybe that might be why the joke works even better, right? Like, because it is usually so like clean and to then just have this like one like outlier of inappropriateness.
That's putting it mildly. Yeah, it's a good episode. At the end, Julie or Karen, I can't remember which, says, "I wanted to be with you" to Kramer, and we get a freeze frame on his stupid face. That's it.
Do you think you could like organize a marriage in 1 week?
Okay, listen, not in a church, because they make you go to like classes and stuff. You can get married at City Hall tomorrow if you wanted to.
This is true.
Plus, Mickey's been divorced. I question all of this Catholic.
Having a big marriage, like your third marriage isn't a big wedding.
You don't register for a third marriage. Is there a reception? They just go into the coffee shop?
Dad's Robert Wagner. He probably has a lot of money.
Yeah. Speaking of jokes, I wrote down that today you had to explain that's what she said to our kid.
Our daughter didn't ask about boys, but she complained. She said, there's somebody at school that keeps saying, that's what she said. Is that a joke? What does that mean? Mm-hmm. And so I racked my brain
for an appropriate way to
explain
this.
To explain.
I think you did a really good job.
Thank you.
So you tell your joke. I was standing by and just waiting to hear what would happen.
I had been thinking about it for a few minutes before you came downstairs. And so I said, it's when somebody says a phrase that you misinterpret to mean like something else, and then you say that's what she said, and she didn't really understand what that said, because that's. So I said like, how did I start it? It was.
I think he said something like, and she sat down on her fluffy pillows, meaning her butt. That's what she said.
That's what she said.
And then you had to explain that it's like, if you say that, it's like her butt cheeks are fluffy pillows. And then she laughed. She loved that. It's not the best and most accurate explanation, but for a kid, I think you did pretty well.
Didn't expect to be explaining double entendres to a 9-year-old at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
She wanted to play a game where we had to guess what each other was saying, but we didn't say the first syllable of the word, of each word in the sentence.
Okay.
And she chose the phrase, "I like happiness." And she
this is
laughed
definitely a
and
joke she's heard at
laughed
school.
and laughed.
Yeah. I have some corrections.
Sure.
Last week's episode, Julia Louis-Dreyfus was all aflutter because somebody called her 5'8". She is 5'3".
Oh, yeah.
And you guessed my hat size.
Mm-hmm.
You said 7 1/4, and I went to check that fitted cap, and it's 7 1/4. But I need 7 1/4 plus like 1 millimeter.
You just got to work it in.
Yeah. And between the Queensboro and Brooklyn bridges is 7 miles.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a good swim.
And they said Kramer's been doing laps between them.
I mean, he did have fins. That makes a big difference.
Okay, sure. Well, like, let's say a there and back 14-mile swim, even with fins. That's
pretty good. Isn't that like almost like swimming across Lake Ontario?
No. Lake Ontario is 53 miles wide.
So it's almost like swimming.
No, it's not.
Ontario.
It's like a quarter of Lake Ontario. So it's not anything like it.
A quarter of a cookie is like a cookie.
Let's see how satisfied you are with a.
I keep apologizing about that for you, and you won't let it go.
All right, we were talking about harvesting scallops.
Okay.
So you can collect scallops on the seafloor, and they mostly hang out on the floor, but they can boop around and swim.
Sure.
You can grow them in nets. You can grow them on trays. You can do something called ear hanging, which sounds terrible, but you drill a hole through the shell and hang them on a line.
So is the shell big when the scallop is small?
No, the shell grows.
Okay.
Like scallop fry is like fish fry. It's just like goop that's full of scallop babies.
Okay.
How does a shell grow though? I don't know.
I'm not a marine biologist.
Did you know BC produces 85% of Canada's farm scallops?
You really went deep on the aqua farming.
I did, because you know what? It takes 6 months to 3 years to grow farm scallops. 3 years? And then if you harvest them from the seafloor, it's 3 more years after that till they're mature. It's a 6-year-old scallop you're eating.
Wow.
Scallops are disgusting.
You're an anti-scallop.
I don't like scallops. And when you're eating it, you're eating the adductor muscle, the one that's used to swim. I asked you if Big Hunk was a real chocolate bar, and it is.
Okay.
Or was. I can't remember if it's still around. Do you want to hear its motto?
I'd love to.
The Big Hunk candy bar is just waiting for you to wrap those hungry lips around it.
That's what she said.
So it's like a honey nougat with peanuts in a slab, like a white Eat More. I love Eat More.
Yeah, you're f***ing weird.
We were talking about getting a landline.
Oh my God, yeah.
Why does it upset you so much?
One, it upsets me that telcos make it so expensive.
Sure, me too.
2, I don't understand what, like, this theoretical situation where we would ever need it.
Yeah, because I'm a mom, and you talk to other moms, and they're like, "Yeah, a landline would be good to have in emergencies." Because you're like, "Whatever, man, it's fine. There's never going to be an emergency."
So I think you're falling into a problem where you see a problem and you're presenting a solution, as opposed to presenting the problem and asking what other solutions could exist. You're like, if there was an emergency, I would like to be able to contact someone. And a solution could be to get a landline. Another one could be to use the phone that is in your pocket and on you at all times, which you are already paying for.
In this scenario, the emergency is me. I'm dying.
You have to then get to the landline.
Our child. There's a person in this house who doesn't have a cell phone in their pocket.
Sounds like those goalposts are moving pretty...
Oh my God. Listen, I got a landline.
You didn't.
No. I set up an emergency phone.
I've seen, and you shouldn't leave your cell phone plugged in 24/7.
Oh my God.
The emergency is going to be that the cell phone battery explodes.
Ugh.
Do you know how many cell phone batteries I had to change at work? Dozens.
Listen, you 2 spaces after a period dinosaur.
Oh yeah, we started talking about that. Two spaces after a period, or just one?
Nobody learned to type, who's our age, nobody learned to type on a typewriter.
That is true. However, when I was learning to type, they told me to put 2 spaces after the period.
Well, that's 30 years ago. You can do something different now. You don't have to do that anymore.
This is true. Like, you don't have to use a landline when there's an emergency. You can use your cell phone. Check mate.
No. Next week is the muffin top.
Uh-huh.
Muffin tops, plural, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
What's
muffin
it
tops,
about?
Top of the muffin to you. Elaine opens a store selling muffin tops.
Elaine does?
No, Elaine doesn't.
She
Elaine's,
has a job. Oh, wait,
sorry.
did she get fired?
No. Sorry. Elaine convinces someone to open a store where they only sell muffin tops.
Okay. Well. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Lawyered. Believe it or not, this is our podcast. Please subscribe at the end. If you subscribed, we would be happy. Please subscribe to us. Believe it or not, it's our podcast.
Is that a Seinfeld reference?